Hare Krishna, very dear devotees. Welcome back again to our ongoing lecture series on the glories of our beloved Sri Vrindavan Dham. But first, Nama Om Vishnupadaya Krishna Pishtaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swaminiti Namane Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharane Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschita Deshatarane. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. So, because Lord Nrsimha Dev's appearance day is just around the corner, May 15th here in India, I thought we could do a short series, 2 classes actually, about him. Essentially, this will prepare us to properly observe and respect Lord Nrsimha Dev's appearance day. Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur famously writes in his Saranagati, Madhavatiti Bhakti Janani Jaitane Palana Kora Krishna Bhashati Bhashati Boili Parama Adare Bori. Holy days, like Ekadasi and Janmastami, are the mothers of devotion for those devotees who properly respect them. Let the holy places of Krishna's pastimes be my places of worship and bless me. Thank you, Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And in Hari Bhakti Vilas, 14th Vilas, text 415, we hear Lord Nrsimha Dev saying to Prahlad Maharaj, also underlying the importance of observing this upcoming day properly. Nrsimha Dev says, Varshe Varshe tu kartavyam mama samtushti karanam mahaguyam midam shreshtam manavir bhava birubi. For my pleasure, every year one should observe the vow of Chaturdasi. Those who are very fearful of material existence should certainly observe this most confidential and excellent vow. So some of you may remember that 2 years ago in 2020, I did a 3-part series on Lord Nrsimha Dev, and the final class was about Lord Nrsimha Dev in Chaitanya Leela. Lord Nrsimha Dev in Chaitanya Leela in Mayapur Dham. We shared many pastimes in that regard. For example, we heard from Chaitanya Mangala, Madhyakanda, that one day in Mayapur, Srivas Pandit was performing the Shraddha ceremony for his departed father. And as is customary, in that ritual, he was hearing the 1,000 names of Lord Vishnu. And we heard how Lord Chaitanya appeared on the scene, and he sat down and also began listening to the same 1,000 names of Vishnu, his names. But when the reading came to the name Nrsimha, Lord Chaitanya suddenly became very angry, exactly like Nrsimha in his Ugra mood. And we heard how Mahaprabhu's eyes became red, his bodily hair stood on end, all the parts of his body trembled, and he began roaring like an angry lion. So all of a sudden he took up a club and he began running through the streets of Navadvip shouting, I'm going to kill the atheists, I'll kill the atheists, I'll kill the atheists. And the citizens of Navadvip, they became terrified. They were thinking, what kind of offense have we committed? But then, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, it's described, he suddenly adjusted his thoughts, because that's not his mood in Kali Yuga. He has more of a mood of compassion. So the acharyas say he adjusted his thoughts, then he sat down on his seat. So Nrsimha in Chaitanya Leela. Now, I was thinking that apart from taking on the lion-like mood of the bhav of Lord Nrsimha Dev, Lord Chaitanya's features are often compared to that of a lion. For example, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami in Chaitanya Charitamrita Adi Leela chapter 3. There's 2 relevant verses. The first is, Chaitanya Simhara Navadvip Avatar, Simha Griva, Simha Virya, Simhara Hunkara. Thus the lion-like Lord Chaitanya has appeared in Navadvip. He has the shoulders of a lion, the powers of a lion, and the loud voice of a lion. And the next verse, Se Simha Vasuk Jivera Hridaya Kandare, Kalmasa Dvidara Nashe Yanhara Hunkare. May that lion be seated in the core of the heart of every living being. Thus with his resounding roar may he drive away one's elephantine vices, purify the heart. When Mahaprabhu roars with the holy names, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, one's impurities are washed away. And that he did. He wandered throughout India chanting Hare Krishna. Now, in that last class we gave in that series about Lord Nrsimha, we, in Chaitanya Lila, we also mentioned other pastimes, like, for example, how Lord Nrsimha appeared one night to the Chandkazi in a very ferocious way and said, don't try to stop my Sankirtan movement, I'll rip you to shreds. So like that, there's so many pastimes of Nrsimha in Chaitanya Lila in Mayapur. So I thought for these two lectures, coming up to the appearance of Lord Nrsimha's appearance day, we can discuss Nrsimha in Vrindavan. First we did Nrsimha in Mayapur, and now we'll do Nrsimha in Vrindavan. But one might think, wait a minute, Maharaj, Lord Nrsimha in Braj? What? But yes, Lord Nrsimha is very much present in Braj in his particular way. For example, if you've been to Nandagram, you'll have seen a deity, a very beautiful deity of Nrsimha, which was the household deity that Nanda Maharaj and Mother Yasoda worshipped to, quote-unquote, protect their baby Krishna. I've seen that deity many times. Very beautiful. Nandagram. Nrsimha in Braj. Also, Rupa Goswami writes about Nrsimha in Braj in his illustrious Padyavali, verse 152. He writes how one night when Mother Yasoda was putting baby Krishna to sleep, she said to her little Lala, "Oh, my rising dark moon, my child, you're not asleep?" And little Krishna replies, "No, mother, sleep has not yet come to me." So she said, "Listen, my son, I will tell you a bedtime story that will make you fall asleep." So Krishna replies, "What is this story I have never heard, Maya? Please tell it." So then Rupa Goswami describes how Mother Yasoda goes on to tell the story, a pastime. And when she came to the sentence, when Lord Nrsimha appeared from the pillar, he was very eager to rip the demons to shreds. Rupa Goswami writes, a smile suddenly arose on child Krishna's lips. Because Krishna was remembering his incarnation as Nrsimha. So there, in Braj Leela, we hear about Nrsimha. So many instances. Also, when we do Govardhan Parikrama, and we come to the southernmost portion, Punchari, we come around the hill and we go up the other side. As we pass that little, as we turn the corner there, if you look to the left about 50 meters away, there's a hill, and on top of that hill is a temple, and that's a Nrsimha temple. And inside that temple is the most ferocious form of Nrsimha, Ugra Nrsimha, killing the demon Hiranyakashipu. Nrsimha appears in different forms. Devotees worship him in different forms as deities. But this Ugra form is there in that Nrsimha temple. And I know when I go there with my Parikrama party, we always take that little detour. And we spend some time with that deity. And we pray to him to safely complete our parikrama around Giriraj. Now, there's also a very famous deity of Nrsimhadev behind Radha Ballabha's temple in downtown Vrindavan. I know many ISKCON devotees, they go to take darshan of that Nrsimhadev deity. And of course, we all know that Srila Gopal Bhatta Goswami prayed to one of his Shalagram Shilas on Lord Nrsimhadev's appearance day to please manifest as a full-fledged deity. That was on Nrsimhadev's appearance day. And the next day, when he woke up, there was our beloved Shishi Radharamanji. And let us not forget the village of Phalain. Phalain in Vrindavan, I lectured on that village and the pastime therein last year, long lecture. In the village of Phalain, every year the inhabitants celebrate Prahlad Maharaja's victory over his demoniac father's attempts to kill him by burning an effigy of Holika. Holika, of course, if you remember, is the sister of Hiranyakashipu. So it's a big event. The whole village comes out, Jai Prahlad Maharaj, Jai Nrsimhadev, death to Holika. Like that. So, Nrsimha and Vraj. And I was thinking, remembering that pastime, how Holika was burned in the fire and Prahlad survived by Nrsimhadev's mercy. I was thinking that it was soon thereafter that Lord Nrsimhadev appeared in Hiranyakashipu's palace and killed Hiranyakashipu. And I was thinking how in doing so, just that simple act of appearing from the pillar, killing that one demon, the whole universe was overjoyed. Because everyone was suffering the atrocities of Hiranyakashipu. Om, Bhur, Bhuva, Svaha, the three planetaries, the whole 14 planetary systems were suffering. So everyone was overjoyed. And I found a beautiful verse in that regard, how there was immense happiness in the universe. I found a beautiful verse spoken by Lord Nrsimhadev in this connection. Now, in this verse, Nrsimhadev plays on the word Prahlad in two ways. Because in Sanskrit, we can interpret a word in a different way. So, in this verse, Nrsimhadev refers to Prahlad, his devotee, and another meaning of Prahlad is immense happiness. So listen to how he plays with this word Prahlad. Nrsimhadev is speaking. If this king of all demons stays alive, then my devotee Prahlad will certainly manifest only at one location within this universe. However, if this demon is killed, then immense happiness, Prahlad, will manifest everywhere in the universe. The verse goes on. With this thought in mind, Shri Narahari, the personality eager to bestow immense happiness, Prahlad, on the entire universe, killed Hiranyakashipu using his nails. So Prahlad the devotee, and Prahlad meaning immense happiness. It's very beautiful. Now this verse was actually composed by my dear friend Hari Parshad Das from the GBC Shastri Committee. Hare Krishna. Now it's said that this festival in Phalain, in Vrindavan, it's so popular that Lord Krishna himself would attend it each year when he was present on this planet in Vrindavan 5,000 years ago. Even Krishna would go to this festival. Nrsimhadev and Braj. Now, because the month of May is always so scorching hot, and I can attest to that right now. It's May and it's about, 48 degrees outside, 115 degrees Fahrenheit. Because the month of May is always so scorching hot, some pundits, they joke that that's because of the fire that emanated from Lord Nrsimhadev when he appeared to kill Hiranyakashipu. Nrsimhadev appeared in the month of May, so they say, well, that's why May is always so hot. And Nrsimhadev is famous in that way, for the fire that emanated from his form. He's called Jwala Nrsimha, the fiery form of the Lord. And we hear about that fire emanating from Nrsimhadev in a number of verses. For example, the famous verse, Ugrim Viram Mahavishnum Jwalantam Sharvato Mukham Nrsimham Bhishanam Badram Mrityum Namamyaham. I bow down to Lord Nrsimhadev, who is ferocious and heroic like Vishnu. He is burning from every side. He is terrific, auspicious, and the death of death personified. Now there's also another verse I found many years ago actually, which also describes this fire coming from Nrsimhadev, and particularly how it affected Hiranyakashipu. This is verse 2 in the scripture called Shubha Sita Ratna Bandha Garam. Shubha Sita Ratna Bandha Garam. Now, I have to warn you, it's very graphic. Just like sometimes on a news broadcast or on television or on the internet, if they're going to show some graphic photo of a car accident or something like that, they'll warn the audience. Viewer discretion is advised. So I'm warning you, this is, please be advised, it's quite graphic, hold on to your seats, but we're all in one sense Nrsimha Bhaktas. It's very popular in ISKCON, so you may like this verse. This is how the fire of Nrsimha, Jwala Nrsimha, affected Hiranyakashipu. May the fire, born out of the friction of the teeth of Hari's saw-like arm against the chest of the demon, purify you. On the demon's skin, this fire made the noise chatta, chatta. His flowing blood created the noise chama, chama. The fire burning his fat made a loud daga, daga sound, while the fire burning his bones created a loud cracking sound, kada, kada. Ooh, I warned you. Bhagavan Nrsimhadev Ki protects his devotees. Now, in my readings I found that one acharya has written that, this is interesting, Nrsimhadev was so angry with the behavior of Hiranyakashipu in every way that when they were fighting, the fire coming from his mouth evaporated the Lord's perspiration. When you're engaged in heavy activity, you perspire. So here's, the Lord fighting the greatest demon the world has ever known. It's a big battle. We would expect to see both parties perspiring. But Nrsimhadev was so angry and that the fire was coming from his mouth, it burned up his perspiration. So this Charya says, therefore we never see any sweat or perspiration on the body of Lord Nrsimhadev in paintings or drawings. Just, a little observation there, but, it's the detail that we really relish. So no perspiration on Nrsimhadev's body. Now, as we know, after Lord Nrsimhadev killed Hiranyakashipu, he remained very angry. Even the demigods could not appease him. Even Lakshmi Devi could not appease him. Therefore, Lord Brahma requested Prahlad Maharaj to approach the Lord. And when Prahlad did so, being the pure devotee that he is, he's one of the 12 Mahajans, authorities on the science of devotional service. When he approached Nrsimhadev, Nrsimhadev became Shanta Nrsimhadev, means peaceful Nrsimhadev. Because after all, it was, if you think about it, it was solely for the deliverance of Prahlad Maharaj that Lord Nrsimhadev appeared. Of course, he set an example for the demons, watch out. Don't mess with my devotees. But literally he came and he went. As soon as Prahlad was delivered from danger, after some discussion there, Nrsimhadev returned to Vaikuntha. Usually the Lord's incarnations, they stay for some time. You know, they deliver the devotees, they annihilate the demons, and they establish dharma, religious principles. But not Nrsimhadev. He came solely for Prahlad. If you think about it, one incarnation for one devotee. That's how kind the Lord, that's how much he loves his devotees. However, and this is super interesting, I found an interesting quote from Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Srila Prabhupada that gives another version, you could say an opposite reason for Nrsimhadev's appearing. In Srimad Bhagavatam 7-20, Shukadev Goswami addresses Hiranyakashipu as Shri Hiranyakashipu, Shri Hiranyakashipu. And commenting on that verse, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati says that Shukadev Goswami addressed Hiranyakashipu respectfully as Shri, meaning glorious or beautiful, because it was in fact Hiranyakashipu who was the main cause of the appearance of Nrsimha and not Prahlad. So how is that? Well, Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati writes that, and I quote here, Prahlad was already aware of the Lord's presence everywhere. Thus the main reason for the Lord's appearance was to convince Hiranyakashipu of his, Vishnu's, existence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Now, when we think about the pastime, we know that Hiranyakashipu, he was an atheist. He knew about Vishnu, but he didn't accept Vishnu as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He didn't accept a Supreme Personality of Godhead. He thought he was all-powerful. So when that final fight is, that final discussion with Prahlad, let us say in Srimad Bhagavatam, Hiranyakashipu is challenging Prahlad. So you're a devotee of Vishnu. Let us see your God come to protect you now, because he didn't believe he would. So he said to Prahlad, is your Lord in this flower pot? Prahlad, who's convinced that Vishnu or Krishna is everywhere, he said, yes, Mother, he's there. So Hiranyakashipu smashed him. See, he's not there. Then Hiranyakashipu said, is your Lord in this table? Yes, Pita, he's definitely there. So he takes his sword, Hiranyakashipu smashes. Your Vishnu's not there. But Pita, he's everywhere. Try to understand. So finally, Hiranyakashipu says, so is he in this pillar? Yep, he's definitely in that pillar, Father. All right, let him come to protect you now. So then Hiranyakashipu smashes the pillar, and Vishnu appears as Bhagavan Nrsimhadev. So Prahlad already was convinced about the existence of God, but Hiranyakashipu was not. Therefore, Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur writes, Prahlad was already aware of the Lord's presence everywhere. Thus, the main reason for the Lord's appearance was to convince Hiranyakashipu of his, Vishnu's, existence as the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And the ultimate conviction was that although he thought he was all-powerful, Hiranyakashipu, Vishnu killed him. And he was lucky to be killed by Vishnu, because by the touch of the nails of the Lord's hands, he was purified of all contamination. He was liberated, as we hear later on in the Bhagavatam. So, one can take it either way, actually. That the Lord appeared for Prahlad Maharaj, as we were discussing, or he appeared for Hiranyakashipu, according to Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati. Thus, making that fateful day a celebration. He can either celebrate the upcoming festival as the appearance day of Lord Nrsimha, or the disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu. You can wake up like that. Both are authorized. Oh, today's the 15th of May. Wow, it's the appearance day of Lord Nrsimhadev. Or you can wake up, oh, today's the disappearance day of Hiranyakashipu. Both are significant events in the history of the world. Both are cause for celebration. And that we see very clearly in Srimad Bhagavatam. You can celebrate either or both. For in Srimad Bhagavatam 7:9-13, Prahlad praises the appearance of Lord Nrsimhadev. And in the very next verse, 7:9-14, he praises the disappearance of Hiranyakashipu. Here's 7:9-13, Prahlad praising the appearance of Nrsimha. Famous verse. O my Lord, all the demigods headed by Lord Brahma are sincere servants of your lordship, who are situated in a transcendental position. They are not like us, Prahlad and his father, the demon Hiranyakashipu. Your appearance in this fearsome form is your pastime for your own pleasure. Such an incarnation is always meant for the protection and improvement of the universe. It's all about Nrsimhadev's appearance. Then in the next verse, 14, here's Prahlad celebrating the disappearance of Hiranyakashipu. It's very clear. He says, my dear Lord Nrsimhadev, please therefore cease your anger now that my father, the great demon Hiranyakashipu, has been killed. Since even saintly persons take pleasure in the killing of a scorpion or a snake, all the worlds have achieved great satisfaction because of the death of this demon. Now they are confident of their happiness, and they will always remember your auspicious incarnation of Nrsimhadev in order to be freed from fear. So, the celebration is coming, you can decide. Maybe we'll just celebrate both, but a great source of celebration. Now, it's said that because of the devotion of Prahlad Maharaj, the greatest person, Purushottam, appeared, and the most demoniac person, Purushoddam, disappeared. Purushottam and Purushoddam. The greatest person appeared and the most demoniac person disappeared. Sometimes devotees ask, how did Prahlad take birth in a family of demons? Generally when I lecture on that question, I say, just so, we can see which path we want to follow. When you put two things together and compare them, you can see which one is superior and which one is inferior. So these two personalities, Prahlad and Hiranyakashipu, by the Lord's arrangement, they appeared in the same family. And by hearing that Leela, you can decide, do you want to follow the path of Hiranyakashipu? Or do you want to follow the path of Prahlad Maharaj? But because of his devotion, Prahlad's devotion, the greatest person, Purushoddam appeared, and the greatest demon, Purushoddam, disappeared. Now, the Vaishnava poet, Parmanand, famous Vaishnava poet, who actually spent most of his life in Vrindavan, he contributes something really interesting in Braj Bhasa language. I liked this when I found it in the Institute. He wrote, Prahlade chumbat or chatat bhakt hriday kotap nivaryo. That's Braj Bhasa. Meaning that when Nrsimhadev, when Prahlad came forward, Nrsimhadev picked him up and put him on his lap. Nrsimhadev put Prahlad on his lap. Now, according to our poet, Nrsimhadev licked Prahlad, as lions do their cubs. And because of that, he says, it's just very beautiful, he said, the rain of the Lord's saliva squelched the fire of separation from Vishnu in Prahlad Maharaj's heart. He licked him. You know how poets are. The rain of the Lord's saliva squelched the fire of separation in Prahlad Maharaj's heart. In this way, the poet says, in this pastime, the Lord performed an abhishek of his devotee by licking him. This is the poet's mind. In this pastime, the Lord performed an abhishek of his devotee. Abhishek means bath. And he writes that when a devotee requests the Lord to manifest in his deity form, the devotee performs an abhishek of the deity. But in this pastime, it was just the opposite. The Lord himself did abhishek of his devotee. Because love is reciprocal. You express your love to your beloved, they express their love to you. So, as part of an expression of our developing our love for the Lord, we have abhishek of the deity. But in this case, the Lord did abhishek of his devotee. Love is reciprocal. So, in this way we can see by hearing these pastimes that the Lord is very hard on the non-devotees, but very soft on his devotees. We sometimes hear he's hard like a thunderbolt and soft like a rose. Or there's a very beautiful verse the Nrsimha Bhaktas all know. Ugropi anugur evayam sabhaktanam nikeshari keshariva sapotanam anyesham ugra vikrama. Although very ferocious, the lioness is very kind to her cubs. Similarly, although very ferocious to non-devotees like Hiranyakashipu, Lord Nrsimha is very, very soft and kind to devotees like Prahlad Maharaj. He gave him an abhishek. All glories to that poet. So, therefore, sometimes the nature of Lord Nrsimha has been compared to sandalwood, in the sense that, the Lord is hard with the non-devotees but soft with the devotees. So an analogy is given. Sometimes the nature of Lord Nrsimha, this nature of Nrsimha, this dual nature of Nrsimha, it's compared to sandalwood. And when I was studying that, I was thinking, how's the nature of Lord Nrsimha compared to sandalwood? But as I read on, it became very interesting. Because in the Himalayan mountains, yogis actually apply sandalwood ash on their bodies in the winter to keep warm. When we think of sandalwood, we think of the cooling nature of sandalwood. We make sandalwood paste and we get cooled down. But sandalwood has another aspect of sandalwood is that if you burn it and you put the ash on your body, the ash will heat you in the winter. Therefore it's said that in the icy climate of the Himalayan mountains, sandalwood ash feels as warm as 100 quilts to the yogis. The next time you go to the mountains, you can burn some sandalwood and try it. In the icy climate of the mountains, sandalwood ash feels as warm as 100 quilts to the yogis. But again, on the other hand, sandalwood, when ground with water, becomes a paste, and it has a completely opposite effect. It cools the body. Therefore, Lord Nrsimha is like sandalwood ash for the asuras because he burns them with heat. Jwala Nrsimha. But for his devotees, he's like cooling sandalwood paste because he removes all their distress and protects his devotees from the blazing fire of material existence. Bhagavan Nrsimha ki. Thus, the dual nature of sandalwood compared to Nrsimha. Now, here's something very sweet and very beautiful. Rasik, actually, but Nrsimha's in this, what I'm going to recite here. Once Krishna compared his 10 incarnations to the beauty of Srimati Radharani. Once Krishna compared his 10 incarnations to the beauty of Srimati Radharani. Now, this pastime is authorized. It's described by Sri Rupa Goswami Prabhupada in his Vidagdha Madhava, chapter 4, verse 41. So beautiful. And in this particular verse, Krishna is speaking. Krishna says, "Dearest Radha, I am not alone in being your surrendered servant. My 10 incarnations are also your servants. My fish incarnation, Matsya, serves the restless fish of your eyes. My turtle incarnation, Kurma, serves the 2 beautiful turtles of your breasts. My boar incarnation, Vraja, serves the line of hair between your breasts. My Nrsimha incarnation, who delights Prahlad Maharaj, serves your delightful lips. My Vamana incarnation, who bound Bali Maharaj with ropes, serves your waist, which is with the folds of skin known as Tribali. My incarnations of Ramachandra, Parasuram, and Balaram are subdued by the beauty of your face, which also defeats the splendor of all beautiful girls. My incarnation of Buddha serves the loveliness of your body. O noble girl! My incarnation of Kalki serves the crooked anger you harbor within your heart. Now if we analyze that verse carefully from Vigdagda Madhava by Sri Rupa Goswami, we see that when Krishna is speaking to Shri Radha, the Sanskrit is Tava Yama Dhara Pralad Samvardhana. He says, your lower lip is Samvardhana, the cause of increasing Pralada, like we were discussing in the other verse, increasing great joy, immense joy for Krishna. Your lower lip is Samvardhana. It's the cause of increasing great joy, Prahlad, for Krishna. Just as Nrsimhadev is Samvardhana, the cause of protecting the devotee named Prahlad. Same play on words, did you catch that? Of the verse we read earlier. Prahlad, the person, and also meaning immense bliss. Sanskrit is such a beautiful language. So much nectar. How Lord Nrsimhadev is present in so many varieties of ways in Vrindavan. So we'll finish here for today. It's always hard to finish. But I know you have your duties and I have mine. So we'll finish here today, and in our upcoming second class in this series, we will discuss 10 famous deities of Nrsimhadev in Vrindavan, how they appeared, their pastimes with their devotees, and many more treasures, actually. This is all preparation for May 15th. But before I go, I learned that here in Vrindavan, Lord Nrsimhadev's appearance is celebrated as a 5-day festival. I mean, we celebrate one day, but talk about Nrsimhadev in Vrindavan. Here the Brajabasis, they celebrate it for 5 days. And I found a very beautiful song that during those 5 days, I'm told, is sung everywhere in Vrindavan. And I had it translated. And here it is. We'll finish with this. The people sing, O Lord Nrsimhadev, all glories to you. The sound of your roaring aborts the pregnancy of the wise of demons. Your loud laughing brings pleasure to Prahlad. Your heavy steps destroy the residences of the Asuras. Your beautiful feet blossom the flower of the heart of Lakshmi. The drops of blood falling from your sharp pointed nails on earth make Mother Earth a little lighter from the sins of the Asuras. And your soft hands are always giving blessings to your devotees. I pray to you to always reside at the gate of my house and protect me from all evil. I pray to you to always reside at the gate of my house and protect me from all evil. Hare Krishna. Wow. Thank you, Prabhu, so much. Again, I hope this has helped you in your preparation to properly receive, as Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur has instructed us to honor these days in the proper way. I hope this has inspired you. And we'll be back in a couple of days with the second part of the series. Bhagavan Nrsimhadev ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Shri Shri Krishna Balaram ki, Shri Shri Radha Shama Sundar ki, Vrindavaneshwari Srimati Radharani ki, Mayapur Dham ki, Shri Shri Gaur Nitai ki, Bhagavan Nrsimhadev's appearance day, May 15th, 2022 ki, Gaur Premanandi, Jai Jai Sri Sri Radhe Shyam. Glories to Prabhupada. Hare Krishna.